Day one, they would have to set the table, the umoja. We have our candles. Could you describe to them so that
Kwanzaa, like all other holidays, has its symbols, and so there's 7 basic symbols and 2 supplementary ones. The first symbol, of course, is the mazao, which are the crops, and since it's a first fruit celebration, then the crops represent its historical origin in those first fruit celebrations. Then we have the mat, the mkeka. Okay, so mazao means crops, mkeka means mat. Okay. Mat is foundation, tradition, and history. So all the other symbols are put on that and around that, because we say no matter how high a house is built, it must stand on something, and that something is our tradition. And then we have also the kinada, or the candle holder, and that represents our roots, our rootedness in our parent people, continental African people, our ancestors. And inside the kinada are the 7 candles, and the candles represent the 7 principles. And you would notice the candles are black, red, and green. Those are colors. Those are colors based on the international black colors given to us by the Honorable Marcus Garvey, which are red, black, and green. But in our organization, we have in black, red, and green. And there's an order to it. Black is for black people, red is for struggle, and green is for the future and promise that comes from the struggle. And so what we do here is teach a lesson. First the people, always put the people first. So we light the black candle first. Okay? Then second, we light the red candle to indicate that the people must struggle. That struggle is the most characteristic aspect of the human personality. That is how we understand ourselves. That is how we realize ourselves. We struggle to come into being. That's called birth. We struggle to make the most out of being. That's called life. And we struggle not to go out of being. That's called the quest for immortality. So you light the black candle for the people, red candle for the struggle, and then green for the future and promise that comes from this daily personal and collective struggle. So those are the candles in the Nguzo Saba, the principle. Then we have the corn, or muhindi, and that represents the people, the children. So you put a corn, an ear of corn down, whether you have biological children or not, because it takes a whole community to raise children.
That's right.
Therefore, all the parents are parents of the children. All the adults are parents of the children. So we have, in African culture, both specific and general parenthood. And so when you hear the proverb, it takes a whole community to raise a child, we're referring to the obligation of general parenthood, okay? And then, of course, we have the kikombe, which is the unity cup. And that we have to demonstrate our need to always have this as our first and fundamental principle, to see ourselves as one, to strive for unity in the family, community, nation, and race, and to make sure that we always honor the best of what it means to be African and human, and to speak that special cultural truth to the world, and to make our own unique contribution to the forward flow of human history. And then we have Zawadi. And Zawadi, you know, these are gifts. The unity cup is called Kikombe Cha Umoja, and the gifts are called Zawadi in Swahili. And you always give children 2 gifts, no matter what other gift you give them. And you must always avoid excessive gift giving and expensive gifts, because we give so little unless we give of ourselves. And your gift can never be a substitute for yourself. You must give them. And what you must give them is hope, and you must give them direction. And so what we always give children, regardless of what else we give them, is a book and a heritage symbol. The heritage symbol to demonstrate our commitment to our own history. It is a reaffirmation that there is no culture as ancient as ours, no culture richer than ours, no culture more meaningful and productive than ours. So we teach that lesson by giving that heritage symbol. And then our commitment to education. We're the one who said, better is a book than a well-built house. Better is a book than a memorial plaque in the temple. In ancient Kemen, this is a sacred text. In the Odu Ifa, the sacred text of the Yoruba teach that the first criteria for a good world is that the people have full knowledge of things, and they have wisdom adequate to govern their lives and the world, and to move in it in such a way they constantly bring good into the world and not let any good be lost. So this has carried not only from ancient Kemet and through Yoruba land, but even in our own African American culture expression, where people said knowledge is so important. It is something that people cannot take from you, and you use it to not only free yourself, but to build a world we all want and deserve to live in. And great people like W.B. Du Bois and Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune, great educators,
one of my mentors,
who taught us that we must always get knowledge, and that we who have knowledge have this responsibility to discover the dawn and then share it with the masses who need it most.
And it was not Bush, but it was Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune who said, let's leave no child.
That's right. That's from the Black Women's Club movement. That's a very
National Council of
important.
Negro Women.
Yes, and the Black Women's Club movement, of which that was a part.
Now, during the 60s, it was a time of acknowledgement for us. It was a very, very important time for the African Americans, because that's when we decided we could wear our hair in what we call natural, and we could wear our natural look. And I think this was the time that Kwanzaa was a god. I think it was something we had to have. I think it was something that came to you at the most important time for us.
It was a struggle, as I said. It was a constant struggle to free ourselves. Kwanzaa is an act of freedom. It's a freedom-loving, freedom-affirming holiday, because what it does is help us break the cultural dominance of the dominant society and to speak our own special culture truth. We were suffering from cultural imperialism of the dominant society. They defined reality. They defined what was good and beautiful. We, in the 60s, broke that monopoly, broke that chain, and began to recover the best of what it means to be African and human and to speak that special culture truth. And Kwanzaa is a part of that process. And I really want people to always see it, that it is a clear example of the 7 principles itself in practice. In order to do it, we had to do it together. And I always give Black people thanks for all over the world seeing the beauty of Kwanzaa, to see its meaning, and to accept it as something of great value that not only would enrich and expand their life, but was worthy of being given to their children as a legacy to go from generation to generation.
And I know that you lectured around the world on the subject, and on other subjects of antiquities and ancient civilizations and Egyptology. Where are some of the places, some of the most important places, and the things that have happened that was most important to you in terms of Kwanzaa?
Certainly, I've lectured in Africa, South Africa, Nigeria, Senegal, Egypt, but I've also lectured in Cuba, in Trinidad, in China, in Canada, in England, other places around the world. And I've enjoyed going and sharing with the Black communities in these places, because what we're doing is reaffirming our kinship and reaffirming this ancient and wonderful legacy that we have. And we're remembering Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune's teaching, that we are heirs and custodians of a great legacy, and we must bear the burden and glory of our history with strength, dignity, and determination.
I noticed another thing, that you have written quite a number of books and writings, and I just wanted to have the people know which ones they were. Introduction to Black Studies. Tell me about that one. Introduction to
Black Studies is the most widely used introductory text in Black Studies, used in over 250 colleges and universities as required text. And what it does, it sums up the massive history and critical issues of African people, especially in this country, but also around the world. And selection from the Hosea? Yes, Hosea, the Sacred Wisdom of Ancient Egypt. Here's original translation. Now, of course, you know, that one's the one I'm interested in. Yes. Most important. Here's an original translation of ancient Egyptian sacred texts, especially the ethical texts. In fact, I'm the first one to do that and bring this to African Americans and African people all over the world, so that they could read from their own text.
Yeah, that was
and
my
making this
son's, because,
available.
that's his field is ancient civilization and Egyptology and so forth. That was his.
Yes.
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 And then Kuwait.
And
Now,
I
tell
would
us
just
about,
like to
go
just
ahead.
make
I'm
another
sorry, go
point,
ahead.
is that because I thought this was so important, I actually went back to school. I had gotten my doctorate. At first, I was getting my doctorate at UCLA, and the movement came. I quit, then went back and got my doctorate after the movement was over. But then I went and get a second one in 94. I did an 800-page dissertation called Mott, the Moral Idea in Ancient Egypt, a study in classical African ethics. Because I believe that black people who wrote the first spiritual and ethical texts should have something to say about the critical issues facing us as a people, a country, and a world. Mm-hmm. And I wanted black studies as a discipline to be the home of that discourse, okay? Mm-hmm. And so I made that contribution. And then I moved from there to study classical Yoruba civilization. And there again, I did original translation of the Yoruba text from the Odu Ifa. Odu Ifa is the sacred text of the Yoruba land. And usually people see it as a divination text, but I extracted the ethical teachings and demonstrated how beautiful they are and how you could use them to engage in modern moral reflection on the critical issues facing our time. So their other text was then Odu Ifa, the ethical teachings.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so it's the Odu Ifa, the ethical teachings, that's one of them. And then the Qaeda, which is...
That's my philosophy. Qaeda is a philosophy I began to develop and continue to develop since the 60s. Qaeda means tradition and reason, an ongoing synthesis of the best of African thought and practice in constant exchange with the world. And so I have an ongoing, lifelong project of recovering, reconstruction, synthesizing the best of African thought and practice in constant exchange with the world.
I wanted to, the book that we're studying here.
Yes, and it is the philosophy out of which I created Kwanzaa and the 7 Principles. In fact, Kwanzaa became an institutional process by which I introduced Qaeda philosophy and the Nguzo Saba. And that is why Kwanzaa, one of the reasons Kwanzaa has 7 days, it is to introduce these principles, and through that, to introduce this philosophy, which again brings forth the best of what it means to be African and human in the fullest sense. This other point I think is very important. As an intellectual, I create Kwanzaa as something of value for African people that they can use, okay? Because in our culture, we are taught knowledge is never simply knowledge for knowledge's sake. Knowledge is always knowledge for human sake. And Mary McLeod is right when she said, people want to know what you're going to do with your knowledge. In other words, how does your knowledge improve the human condition and enhance the human future? And so I wanted to create something of value that people could embrace and use to enrich their lives. Now, the Qaeda then is a philosophy that sets in motion a discourse, a discussion about what it means to be African and what our role is.
We've got 1 minute for you to, so if they need to want to get one of your book, especially Kwanzaa.
First, go to our website, www.official Kwanzaa website, official Kwanzaa website, okay, .org, official Kwanzaa website.org. Also, they can call Sankore Press, Sankore, S-A-N-K-O-R-E, Press, at area code 323-295-9799.
Now, I did not give that to my director, so it's not going to be printed on there. They can contact me,
they can contact
and I will make sure that they get it.
But if they go to the website, that data is on the website.
Now, tell me, we're going to, before we go out, we're going to go out with Kwanzaa music, and we have to go and Asante
Sana to you.
Thank you so much for coming. I wish we had more time.
I wish we did,
We'll see you next time on Wanda's Cafe.
Thank you so much.